This meeting is now called to order emergency meeting for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022, and we will now stand for the pledge, and Dr. Allen will lead us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Happy hurricane. All right, I will turn it over to, I guess we need to adopt the agenda first. I'll seek a motion to adopt the agenda for today's emergency board meeting.
I move to adopt the agenda for today's emergency board meeting.
Second.
Ms. Miller and Ms. Fields. Any public comments on agenda items? Seeing none, our first action item will be the Fema overtime reimbursement policy. Before we take our vote, could I get staff to just kind of do a quick rundown of what the policy is? Superintendent Hyde.
Yes, ma'am. The district learned a lesson previously. We had failed to include this policy in accordance with FEMA expectations and requirements, which resulted in us becoming ineligible for certain reimbursements for staff. And so what this allows us to do, and we were talking this morning, we believe that there was a little over $200,000 that we were denied or had to actually pay back as a result of an audit that took place after the last storm. This is a policy Mr. Bridges went through and had conversations and communications with multiple counties yesterday, finding out how many of them had included this, how many of them currently had language. We were able to pull down some of that language and confer and come to an agreement that this is needed at this time. And so basically what the policy allows is for me and through the board approval to qualify our employees for overtime when they're working in shelters. Many of you know, as you know, a little over or almost 250 employees will be working around the clock over the next 72 hours as we address these issues, whether that's manning storms or out in the field, addressing repairs or evaluating our campuses post-storm. There's just a lot of employees that will work well beyond their normal duty day. And so we have to be in a position where I feel that we need to take a position where we're going to compensate them fairly for that, because that's time away from their own families. And again, in these emergency situations, I'm pleased to say that they rise to the occasion. So that's the background on this policy.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. And our lovely administrators just informed me that we did not vote on adopting the agenda. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye to adopt the agenda. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. So now for our Q1 FEMA overtime reimbursement policy, I will hear a motion.
I move to accept the policy as stated by the superintendent.
Second.
Ms. Miller and Dr. Allen, any discussion?
I have one question.
Ms. Fortney.
Food service had a report today, but all the other sites are closed. How is that? Or did they not have to?
They're not closed. All sites are open today. There was an update that went out to staff at 2:45 yesterday clarifying each role. Clerical staff, custodial staff, food service staff, and others were required to report to work today unless they had extenuating circumstances that they could work with their building administration. That was to finalize any remaining storm prep. As you know, with food service in particular, they have to inventory all their items. I'll give you an example of another FEMA audit issue that came up previously. For example, we'll say Uncrustables, right? The little sandwiches that we use. We basically said we had one box of those. That's insufficient for FEMA. They need an actual count. And so we need to make sure that all of our documentation is finalized and all of our prep is completed. So for food service, we're using our district vans to relocate non-perishable and perishable items. So they should conclude that by noon today. And then principals are free to start sending staff home as early as noon or even before if storm prep has been completed.
So how does that work with people that aren't at work? I'm just curious. Like they're showing up to work, but a lot of people are not showing up to work. Do they get compensated with a
No.
day?
They do not. This is part of
No
their role and
overtime?
function. As I stated, there's well over 200 individuals who will be working around the clock the next 72 hours. There is no issue of fairness here. Respectfully, these are roles and situations that are limited. If they work beyond their normal daily rule, they would be compensated additionally, yes. But this is the same as every other employee, and unfortunately, they're in a role, in a function that requires them to be on campus today. There is no safety hazard today. Staff and others have had more than adequate time. I think the district has shown and performed its due diligence. As you know, we expedited payroll. Everyone had the weekend to prepare. There's no secret about this storm and its presence in our community. The storm at this time, the wind speed or the winds will probably likely not begin to impact our community until late this evening, if not early tomorrow. So there is still plenty of time today for staff and others to finalize any arrangements at their own home.
I was just asking for somebody who
Sure.
might have voted for me. All right,
Yes,
thanks.
ma'am, understood.
Ms. Fields?
I had a couple of things. I wanted to request that the policy that's being proposed be read into record. And I also wanted to make sure that once we get past this storm, and I spoke to Superintendent Hyde about this on yesterday, that we circle back and have a public hearing, because with the policy, that's what we're supposed to do, but understanding this is an emergency, it is what it is. So if Mr. Bridges or Superintendent Hyde, I don't care, could read it into record, I would appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. What's your preference, Mr. Bridges?
Why don't we run through this real quickly? As the superintendent indicated, the purpose of this meeting today is to adopt an emergency rule which is designed to maximize our opportunity for FEMA reimbursement of overtime expenses during an emergency. As you know, there are never any guarantees with FEMA. They are very, I guess picky might be a good word there. They are very by the book, very structured and regimented in their treatment of these things. There's never a guarantee that we will get reimbursement. However, if we don't have these policies in place, there is a guarantee that we will not. Our policies did address briefly employees who are non-exempt. These are people who are not exempt from the protections of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And there are overtime provisions on our books for those people, and there is reference to emergency situations. There are no references, no authorization for overtime for exempt employees, those who are not covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act. The purpose of this is to maximize our opportunity for reimbursement for those folks as well. Emergency rulemaking is provided for in Florida Statute 120.54, subparagraph 4. And it tells you that you need to use procedures that are fair under the circumstances. And of course, this is a very rushed situation because of the impending storm. But this was, as soon as the language was drafted, it was provided to the media. It's been published on our website. It's been put out there. So we've given such notice as was possible. The meeting is open to the public, and there has been the opportunity for comment. So I think the board has taken reasonable steps under the circumstances. In order to go through emergency rulemaking, you have to make certain findings regarding the facts of the circumstance of the situation and how they impact public safety, health, and welfare. I have drafted for you some language. What I would suggest when we get down to it is that you adopt those reasons and then adopt the proposed policy. Once again, this is for the sole purpose of authorizing overtime both for exempt and non-exempt employees during emergency situations for the purpose of maximizing our opportunity for reimbursement. The language that is proposed, and I've just numbered it as Emergency Policy 6700.01. Our regular policy on Fair Labor Standards Act is School Board Policy 6700. So this tracks that. and it is entitled Overtime Pay During Emergencies. The first provision is emergency situations for non-exempt employees. Non-exempt employees who work more than 40 hours during a given work week will receive overtime pay in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act and school board policy for all hours worked in excess of 40. Work week is defined as the 7-day period of time beginning on Monday at 12 a.m. and continuing to the following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. For the record, that definition tracks with the existing definition in your policy. The proposed language for exempt employees is as follows. Exempt employees who work more than 40 hours during a given work week is defined herein will receive overtime pay at their regular hourly rate for all hours worked in excess of 40. Work week is defined as the 7-day period of time beginning on Monday at 12 a.m. and continuing to the following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Nothing herein shall be construed to make such overtime pay subject to or contingent upon federal funding or a presidential disaster declaration, or to authorize higher rates of overtime pay during a presidential declaration of emergency than during a non-presidentially declared emergency. That language in the last paragraph that I read is a direct lift from the FEMA regulations. Those are qualifications that are forbidden. If you do not exclude those, they will deny you reimbursement. So that is the language. And we'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions you may have. Once again, if you wish to approve this, first I would recommend a motion to adopt the specific facts and reasons as read, and then a motion to approve because remember, under 120, perhaps I didn't explain it clearly enough. In order to go through emergency rulemaking, the board has to make findings that this directly impacts the health, safety, and welfare of the district. Otherwise, we'd have time to go through regular rulemaking.
But we need to adopt that. We've never done that before, so we need to adopt.
We've never gone through emergency rulemaking
Well, we
before.
did with masks, and we didn't adopt a finding, so that's why I'm asking.
I don't recall. We may have built it into the language, but bottom line is, my recommendation is adopt the findings and facts that have been set forth, then adopt the language.
Okay, so we already have a motion and a second on the table. What do we need to do from there?
Go ahead and approve the policy and then approve these. The reason is
Approve the finding afterwards.
they have to be published contemporaneously with
Okay.
the vote.
If I may address the second part of Ms. Fields' question, we did have a conversation, so this will come back formally and follow the normal rulemaking
Yeah.
process.
This can only be approved for 90 days as
Correct.
an emergency policy.
That is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the policy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries 5-0.
And Madam Chair, the follow-on motion would be move to adopt the specific facts and reasons for finding an immediate danger to public health, safety, or welfare, and reasons for concluding that the procedure used is fair under the circumstances.
And I will hear a
All that is required is
motion.
move approval.
I will hear a motion.
So moved, whatever you just said.
So move approval, yes.
Ms. Fields, and do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Any other business to come before this board? Ms. Fields?
I don't have any business, but I would like to thank the staff that's going to be putting themselves in harm's way over the next 72 hours on behalf of the students and the families, and on behalf of us as a board. It says a lot for people to actually leave their families, and I'm sure that they will, to safeguard and provide shelter for those who don't have what they need to be safe and secure. So I really appreciate them, and just want them to know that.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
I just have two things. One, if we could have a list, and that might have gone out, for where we can volunteer if needed. I know one of my high schools is a shelter, at least one of them, so, but I don't know the contact for that high school. So if we could have that, that would be great. And also, I'm reading that we opened up payroll or got payroll out sooner. Is that just for Mid-Florida? Can you talk a little bit about that? For
The email went out to all employees payroll was finalized. Unfortunately, those who bank with, or I should say fortunately, for those who bank with Mid-Florida, they
Okay.
actually get access to their pay 24 hours sooner. It's just a matter of how they're processing payroll. But as you know, all of these would not nor ordinarily become funds readily available in someone's account till Friday or even later. So we were able to work with the payroll department, finance department to expedite. There are still approximately 200 individuals who still receive
paper.
a paper check.
Yes.
And we're going to be having conversations about that. Their checks went out. They should receive those checks today or tomorrow. It also included a letter that they could use with their bank authorizing for them to issue payment on those checks before the Friday, because they're all dated for Friday, so.
I appreciate that. I don't know that we've done that before, been in the situation to do that, but I think that's helping a lot of families who were concerned through the storm. So the staff that worked on that, I appreciate getting their payroll out sooner than later.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, great. Yeah, just wanted to say thanks to all the ones that are stepping in to serve in this capacity as we think about safety and taking those measures. We have a pretty heavy lift, and Superintendent Hyde, I would love for you to address how many sites that we have around the county that we've opened doors to our community, and actually to those surrounding communities as well that will potentially be moving from the coastal regions into our area. But in general, I think as Ms. Fortney said, yeah, we do have, a lot of individuals that are maintaining their responsibilities. But I'm thinking of, teachers that have stepped out of the classroom, admins and so forth that are now having to make major adjustments to syllabi and so forth, deadlines and that pressure as they've stepped out of the classroom and recognizing all those needs that they're going to have to address moving forward. And I'm hearing that from my perspective as well, or saying that from my perspective. That's a pretty big lift to step out of the classroom and to jump back in next week and so forth as well. So, but if you can maybe address, those, basically those areas in regards to our shelters and what they're doing.
So we have 17 public school shelters and an 18th shelter, with McKeel being the second special needs shelters. Special needs shelters, the reason we had to close, and we got the requests yesterday to accelerate our timeline by 24 hours. As you recall, our intentions, based off the trajectory of the storm, we felt that it would be better to keep students in school and give parents more time and not have the child care issues through Tuesday, but cancel Tuesday night activities. But the EOC and the National Weather Agency came forward and said, we really need to get the special needs shelters up and running. I think part of the issue was they were worried about capacity in surrounding counties, especially the coastal line counties, who are going to see the greatest impact. So we accelerated our timeline. Special needs shelters opened this morning at 7 a.m. One of the reasons why it takes a little bit more time for those shelters in particular is there's a lot of transportation needs that have to be met. So Citrus Connection works in partnership with the county and with the school system to transport well over 200 individuals who have significant medical needs. And a lot of times they don't know the specific nature of that individual's needs. And so some will come with minor or no equipment, and others will come with a significant number of equipment or support devices. So they anticipated it would take them a good 6 to 8 hours to get everybody relocated. So the shelters, Ridge Community and McKeel, opened this morning as of 7 a.m. The rest of our shelters open at noon. And so we've started welcoming individuals onto our campuses. We track and monitor enrollment. We can serve almost 30,000 individuals in our shelters. And they're well-positioned, well-poised. That's one of the reasons why food service and others had to continue to be on campus this morning, as we're relocating perishable and non-perishable items to those shelters. Facility staff are delivering toiletries and all the things that most people don't realize has to take place. You put 2,000 people in a gymnasium, you're going to have custodial supplies. And so we're delivering those, making sure everything's well stocked. We've got water on pallets. We've got our sandbags have to be deployed. We've taken, as you know, one of the precautions we took was taking additional photos of all of our campuses, because that was a point of contention in the past. We need to prove the pre-storm condition of all of our facilities in case we have, hoping it never happens, but if we have any damage to our facilities, we'll have evidence of that so we can be in a better position to advocate for ourselves with reimbursements. That included all of our fields and whatnot. For staff and for students, the one benefit I would say, and Mr. McNaughton's not here, they have actually pre-populated Schoology with lessons and activities. Wow. So parents, if you want your children to be working on school assignments, there's some out there for you to engage in. But, you know, this is one of those things that happens. It's our teachers and our staff are incredibly flexible and resilient. Listen, if COVID taught us anything, is we can figure it out. And so, yes, it's a disruption to the learning environment. Parents can expect to get an update later today as it relates to Thursday in particular. And then Friday will be, right now, it'll really depend on the impact that the storm has here locally. Sometimes, and just so everybody understands, we may be delayed in reopening, not because we have facilities issues ourselves, but because the shelters, some of the people who are sheltering may not have someplace to relocate. It takes time for the Red Cross to work with us in the county to reassign individuals who are sheltering with us. Last time we had this issue, we worked with the Red Cross to consolidate shelters so that we could reopen quickly, and we realized that's an obligation that we have for families in order for them to move forward, dealing with their own issues at their own homes and employment and other things. We've got to reopen and get the pace going back again, but we need to make sure we can do so safely. So Friday right now is very much to be determined, and Thursday an update will go out by noon today for families so they can plan accordingly. And as you know, all activities were canceled for today, and we just wish everyone stays well and they take care of themselves. I think as an organization, I'm very proud of the team and the work that they've done, and we've got all our shelters staffed. I don't envy everyone working those 12-hour shifts. You know, Mr. Davis and myself will be living at the EOC for the next 24 to 48 hours. Tight quarters, but it's good work, but thrilled. And Dwight's team's ready to go. Angela Usher's team's ready to go. We finalized all of our insurance preparations. We brought on additional landscaping crews so that they could assist us with tree damage, so we can clear our campuses, especially the roadways. As soon as the storm is over, even as emergency operations start to go out on and the power utility companies start to hit the road to determine the extent of any damage, our team hits the road. They're going out in teams of 5. That includes someone who's from the insurance side who can also start to denote claims or areas of concern. They'll verify whether or not school campuses are safe. Once they inform us that a campus is safe, the regional will then contact the building principal, who can then go visit their campus. So we've told everybody, stay off the roads, do not visit your campus till you've gotten an all clear. Because the last thing we need is a down power line somewhere that somebody can't see it. They jump out of their vehicle and we have an accident. Or we have a roof collapse, or we have trees that are down. We need to take the time to reopen carefully and slowly and protect our staff and our students and families when they return. So a little bit longer of an answer. I tried to cover as much of it as possible, but proud of the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Great report.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, thank you, staff, for all of your work. We will let you get back to it.
Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.